Have you got a business where it's either plateaued in performance or worse still, the numbers are going the wrong way? If you have, then this video is designed to help give some ideas and areas that perhaps you should concentrate on in order to turn the fortunes around of the business. So if you'd like to understand what the major barriers to growth are and how to overcome them, then this video is for you. Hi, my name is Rob Goddard, and I'm joined today by Ali Powell of Commercial Acceleration Limited. Hi, Ali, welcome.
Hello.
So we're going to talk about an area of expertise that you've got and an area of expertise I've got, and we're linked because you deal with the growing and scaling up of businesses, and I deal with the selling of them and exits. And some people might not make the connection, but the connection is that most people I've ever met in the 20 years of selling businesses, what they want for their business and what it's worth today are miles apart, like double or treble. They want double or treble for their business than it's actually worth today. So the only solution is they've got to grow it. And so that's the area and space that you occupy, Ali. So perhaps you could tell the audience a little bit about what you do and how you do it.
Yep, thanks, Rob. Lovely to chat with you. So yeah, I would describe myself as a business growth accelerator. So yeah, I'm very passionate about helping companies grow and scale. Have a lot of experience working in the working with world-class brands such as Fitness First and Hilton and Intercontinental Hotels Group, and internationally. Yeah, I just love looking at what are the value builders, what are the sort of commercial levers that can maximize value.
Yeah, because one of the problems that we have, certainly in the UK, but it is replicated in other countries, is that most businesses are at the smaller end in the country. In fact, in the UK, only 3% of businesses turn over more than £1 million. So it's like the port decanter. It's very narrow at the top, and it only gets wider and bigger at the base. So only 3% of businesses turn over more than £1 million, and yeah, staggering. Also, 70% of businesses never see their 10th anniversary. And I did read that 20% of startups never get to the end of year one. 20%.
Wow.
So you must be a very busy person. There's a huge job ahead for business owners, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. And I think, business owners who want to embrace, growth and have a growth mindset about knowing some of these fundamentals that we'll talk through about how you can optimize them. Life's too short to be, I think, wasting time and money doing the wrong thing. That's it's not good for anyone. So yeah, what are some key value building areas that can really accelerate you, and that makes everyone happy.
Yeah, and you put out a poll recently on LinkedIn and posed the question. Well, perhaps you can talk us through what the question was and the 4 possible answers, and then go through what the results were. It's a fascinating undertaking that you had.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, doing some research, the question was, in your opinion, what is the biggest barrier to companies scaling up? And we had 4 options that LinkedIn gives you on a poll. So we had unclear purpose and values, limited customer understanding, unclear brand promise, and not tracking the right numbers.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you give people a choice of 4, many people come up with others. We weren't limited to 4, yeah. So what was the results of the poll then that you undertook?
Yeah, so I said it interestingly, there was a clear winner. There was a clear winner with nearly half of the votes, 49%, and that was around the barrier being unclear purpose and values.
Interesting.
That was 49%.
Yeah, was that a surprise to you?
It was for me. I mean, absolutely think it's very critical area. I would have put my money on, if I was betting on this poll, on the lack of customer understanding and how that evolves. But yeah, I mean,
choice. Yeah.
The second, yes. So the purpose, and there's constant research by the likes of Elderman that talk about more customers are, really needing and making purchase decisions about why a business exists and what it believes in. What's its purpose? How's it going to improve the world? What's its positive intent? So I mean, so many examples, but two of them that I wrote about. I did some sort of recent profitability playbook. I included two in there. One was about so Crayola, the sort of crayons. Theirs is encouraging children to be creative and enabling parents to inspire them.
Right.
It's like a bigger mission about creativity.
Yeah.
And then Dove, it's another brand I sort of admire, a sort of cleansing beauty brand.
Yes.
Their purpose is around discovering the value of real beauty and improving self-esteem worldwide. And I think that's full, self-esteem and confidence on a bigger level. Yeah.
But it's interesting. Okay, you were limited to four options.
Mm.
But when I buy things, I don't tend to, before I make the purchase, understand the purpose and values of a company. Off camera, I'm mentioning the last 30 years, I've bought German cars, Audi, Beamer, and Mercedes over the years. I don't know what those companies' purpose and values are. I have no idea. I just know that all three make good, solid cars. So it's really interesting how nearly half of the populace have voted for that one thing, which is purpose and values. That was a surprise to me as well. So what was the second most popular answer, Ali, in the survey that you did?
That was around tracking the right numbers.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, it takes a lot of consideration to really get to what are the hero numbers, what is the top star metric, if you can get to that, or what are the top 4 or 8 that you have in a balanced scorecard. So an example would be if you're a B2B business, maybe number of followers on LinkedIn or Twitter to know in direct measure, whereas what you might be more wanting to know is actual like profit, and also what are the drivers that get to these metrics. So if it's about number of customers, it's tracking the leads, quality leads, and conversion.
Yes.
So sort of dissecting it really, and every company is a bit different, but to know, well, what is that, and is it right? What is driving that?
Do you know what? You are so right. I put out a piece a couple of weeks ago that in my experience, 90% of business owners don't know their numbers. And I was talking specifically about conversion rates, which you've just mentioned there, hence the trigger, really. And that's a frightening statistic because they might know their turnover. They probably don't know their net margin. They might be a bit quizzical on cash flow. I noticed one of your respondents to the poll mentioned cash flow.
Yeah.
I know many business owners, come across them over the last 20 years, who don't have management accounts, so they can't see what's happening to the financials of the business. It's almost like driving down the M4 but looking backwards, because they're looking at their financials in hindsight and not seeing what's coming up in front of them, and that's just financial numbers. But I find that most business owners, the majority of business owners, don't know conversion rates. They have not got a clue of their suspect to prospects to meetings to order. They don't know, and that's worrying if you've got leadership and ownership that don't know the key numbers. But so I'm surprised it wasn't more than 26% that response. It was the second highest response, wasn't it? But Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Absolutely. No, what you said, I totally agree with. Knowing your conversions all the way down the funnel, and then trying to think like how you can move them marginally, even a percentage, 5% on each, amalgamates up to millions. Yeah.
Yeah, because a proper dashboard with the right numbers being monitored can help you understand the problem or the problems. Then you can provide a solution rather than coming up with solutions, spending money and time and not getting anywhere because you're looking at the wrong things. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, one of my biggest things I always talk to people about, we actually had it in our pre-chat, is how a lot of people come to me as a business consultant about how to get sort of more customers, which is, a definite thing to consider. But however, I usually take them first to more the area of the existing customers in terms of, well, what are you doing to nurture and drive average order value, and frequency of those, because that's what it should be about, customer lifetime value. We all know the stats around it being much more cost efficient, but yeah, it's always the question is, well, what's the new ones,
Yeah, you're right. I come across the same thing where the question from the business owner is, how do I get more customers? Well, that's the wrong question.
Yeah.
Actually, it's 6 times easier to upsell to an existing client than it is to sell and get a brand new shiny one, statistically. So, and why not go for the low-hanging fruit, and is to keep in regular contact and understand your existing clients and sell them more. You're right, it's a lifetime wallet, really, isn't it? So it's not about getting more customers, it's about generating more revenue from the clients that you have got.
Yeah, we did this very well when I worked at Fitness First. It was our number one metric, talking about star metrics, customer lifetime value. Yeah, which meant about educating people on the length of the relationship, so as well as the value. So trying to get people to go from having an 80-month membership with you to 22 months and sprinkled with incremental value along the way, like personal training and stuff. And it's just constantly driving for that repetition and frequency and delighting people, engagement and evolving with them.
Yeah. So what was the third of the 4?
Yeah, the third one is sort of real passion area for me, is around limited understanding around the customers.
Yeah.
Which is key. It's that's the nucleus, really, is just, well, who are your customers, who are your right core customers, and knowing them from a demographic, but more importantly, like psychographic, everything you can about them, where they play, what their needs are, what their problems are, how your product serves them. And then you can expand out into your everything else, your brand, your value proposition.
Yeah. I mean, I concur with that, because as a buyer of other products and services, when I'm in procurement mode, and rarely, it must be the minority, anecdotally, that keep in contact with me. So I've appointed someone to provide a product or a service.
Yes.
The majority don't keep in contact. They don't know what other needs I have that they might be able to fulfill, because they don't keep in touch. Or they might send out sponsored ads on social media and think that's marketing, but actually they're not communicating to me as an existing customer. So it's a bugbear of mine as a buyer of services that the majority of suppliers don't keep in touch, don't know me, don't know what's changing in my life that maybe could be advantageous to them, because they could sell me something else.
Million percent agree. Like I say, just constantly engaging and ideally, like you said, in a personalized way. If they knew what your preferences were, if you're a hotel, you might know that it's a family sort of more thing that you're interested in, or a spa break. I think also, like a clever thing that I like with this area is also when people secure your next purchase at the time. So like hairdressers, for instance, some of them are very good at, when you're saying goodbye, saying, right, so let's book you in the next 3 months, because we don't want you to miss out. So it's that sort of great customer angle, but also commercially it's brilliant. And then they also just have great ways of keeping you engaged along the way and making sure you don't cancel, ideally.
Yeah, I've got an example from the world of financial planning. Independent financial advice, etc. The good IFAs at least give you an annual call or a meet, ideally quarterly. The bad ones don't hear from. You have to contact them. I found the bad IFAs to say I've got a need. It's crazy, and those people haven't lasted long in my life. But where an IFA, because obviously with a regular call, whether it's quarterly or annually, life does change for all of us, doesn't it? Maybe and there's usually an opportunity for them to sell something else or help in another area that's still related. But if you're not contacting your customers regularly and understanding their changing needs, that's going to stop you scaling up the business.
Yeah, totally.
So the answer quite often is they've got to find new customers, but that's quite hard to take market share from existing IFAs.
Yes. No, there's many ways you can nurture and get value out of existing customers. Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So what came bottom of the 4 then?
So bottom of the 4 was about brand promises. So it was sort of limited knowledge of the brand promises, and that for me would speak to knowing how your brand is different to the others. What are the 3 things that you would hang your hat on to say that your brand is different or it's USP. So it can be a murky world, some markets, and it's can stop you from scaling if you're just trying to compete and it's not clear what your positioning is. Ideally you want to be like in a category of 1 where you are the only choice and boom. And this is where disruptors and everything try to play.
Yeah. And I mean, it was interesting because it was only 6% of respondents voted for that. The unclear branding promise being a barrier, the biggest barrier to scaling up. It's bad news for marketeers, of course, who try and sell services based on branding and positioning.
I think it's always an area where more improvements can be done. It's sometimes a word that doesn't quite clearly resonate with people in terms of knowing the power of the brand, and the brand not just being a marketing articulation of the identity or the communications, but brand for me is totally the whole experience. It's every single touch point along the online and offline journey. But of course I have a big brand background, so I get that.
Yeah. And so from your own experience, what other, you had a choice of 4 there for the poll, but what other key hurdles do business owners, leaders find that prevents them from scaling up sufficiently?
Yeah, so I think that there's a few, so I'll sort of say a few and see if any sort of interest us to chat about it further. So some might be insufficient funding, which obviously you can find in different ways. It might be poor leadership. Another barrier to scaling up, apart from, so you've got leadership, and sorry, what was going around in my head when I was saying that is leadership can mean both, at the top level as well as just everyone being a leader. Another barrier is sort of not having a pot of money for test and learn and innovation. Right. So being too on the here and now and transaction without having resources. And it's not just money, it's also time, a bit like how Google try to have a non-Friday where they just encourage you to come up with these pioneering thoughts about what's next, and then have a fail fast culture, that it's okay then to test new things and be agile, and if it doesn't work, that's okay. So that's another sort of barrier I'm quite passionate about.
Yeah, I think the funding one immediately comes to mind for me as well, because it's often trotted out by owners. I would have a bigger business, but I haven't got money to do it. So the immediate response, of course, is, well, why isn't your company producing enough cash to fund that growth? And then you find out that they're taking out large amounts in dividends and directors' whims. They're taking cash out the business. So it's about priorities often. I know when I started my first business, I didn't have any significant marketing spend for the first 3 years, but I was able to grow a business despite not spending a lot on marketing at all. Um, I, I I think I spent, I think, £2,000, or maxed out a credit card at the time, £2,000 on a 10-page website. I bought a load of business cards and I went out to free networking events for 2 years. So I was in sales mode rather than spending copious amounts of time and money on marketing. And it wasn't until the business started getting traction, then I had the disposable cash to invest in marketing tactics and strategies. But the sales came first. So I produced the cash first, then I reinvested part of it into marketing. So there are ways. I mean, you alluded to it a moment ago. There's a lot of cash about with business investors. There's people out there with too much money earning very little. I see that inflation is just over 2% this month, which means if you've got savings, it's deteriorating in value every day, every week, every month. So there's a lot of people out there in the business world that want to put their money to work. And investing in SMEs is one of those popular areas. So there is money available. The difficult bit is accessing it. Generally, banks aren't into lending. I know it might come as a shock, but I speak as an ex-banker. I was once told years ago to look after the people with money and not lend any money out as a bank. And sell them regulated products like pensions and life insurance. So it's an interest. I won't say which bank it was, but but there is something, because lending money is risk, and the banks are notoriously bad at trying to welcome people, but then saying no after a few months of a credit committee making an unfavourable decision. But there are other alternative funding sources.
There are, and it's again sort of about how prepared you can be with showing just what a no-brainer opportunity it is for people to invest in you. You know, there's great work you can do around research or business plans that show really great thought and lots of opportunity from market sizing and feasibilities, and all these sort of levers that we're talking about, how they will come into play, that they can then get momentum and grow. So
yeah. You mentioned leadership as well. I totally agree with that. I've always said businesses never fail, business owners do. It's the decisions and the leadership, or the lack of making good decisions and poor leadership, that causes a business to fail. And the reverse is true. If the leadership, and you are right, it's not just the people at the top, or the owners maybe, it's people down the chain that have got responsibility for others. If they haven't got enthusiasm, energy, and leadership skills, then that business is going to struggle to grow, unless by luck. And no one wants to run a business on luck.
You need, like, say, the right people. That's that sort of Jim Collins thing, isn't it? You need the right people on the bus, firstly. And I mean, leadership is a complete skill that can be crafted and learning all the time. You know, for people who've got a growth mindset. I love the topic of leadership. I'm always looking at it and trying to learn like best practices. And at the moment, say it's just uber important about emotional intelligence, which is just brilliant, because it's such the great right way forward is to be a leader that understands those dimensions of emotional intelligence, relating to others, knowing yourself, and all of that. Yet sometimes leaders are just put in these roles just because, and they've got no idea if they can actually, like you say, be great leaders, be like, and truly get people to get the best out of them, to help them rise and thrive.
And poor leadership can not only stunt the growth of a business, but can actually decimate it. I'm thinking of Gerald Ratner, for those of you who are old enough to remember Ratner's Jewelers. When he was asked, how can you sell all your jewelry so cheaply? He said, because it's crap. Well, it was very honest.
Right.
Very honest of him to say that as the owner of a jewelry business, nationwide jewelry business. And a more up-to-date example, I won't mention their name because it's sensitive at the moment, but a certain disruptor in the brewery industry, very popular actually, and I'm a consumer of their products as well. I like the disruptors in an industry. Just some bad news has come out in terms of the way that the business has been led and managed.
Yeah.
And it we don't know what the outcome of that will be, but it just shows you how the quality of the leadership is fundamental to the success of a business.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's so key, so key. Yeah, people will leave whatever a bad company for sure. Yeah.
So I know when we chatted previously, we're very interested, aren't we, Ali, on getting other people's comments, if it's in LinkedIn down below, what your experiences are. You know, we've talked about the 4 quality. We've talked about 7 actually quality, yes. But there may well be 70 things that are barriers to business growth. Yeah. So if you're watching this, put them in the LinkedIn box below, in the comments box. I know that if people want help in growing and scaling their business, to get in touch with you, what's the best way, Ali, for them to get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Would love to chat with people about what their barriers are and brainstorm ideas, try to test ways to unblock them. So yeah, the best way with me is reach out to me on LinkedIn, Ali Powell. You know, great to be connected with you. I post on there a lot, you know, or just write to me directly, ali@comexcel.co.uk.
Brilliant. Yeah, and we'll have the email address on the end slate of this video. And if there's anyone out there that thinks their business is worth their magic number, give me a call. I'll value your business. I'll spend an hour or 2 with you on the phone and give you an idea whether you've reached your magic number or not. Brilliant.
Right.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your time, Ali, and your various insights. Is there one final tip that you want to leave with the audience, something that they can do tomorrow that will help them on the course of growing their business? If it's plateaued and they're struggling right now, is there one thing that they could do tomorrow or start that journey that would help them?
Tomorrow, I would say reach out to your existing customers. You know, so many different ways you could do that. You know, depending on the size of you could do it on email, you could do it on phone call, you could do it on whatever, you could do a 3-liner on an email, whatever. But yeah, just do that. Start building great relationships and thanking them for their business.
Can't think of better people to speak to than people who are paying you. I think business is simple, really. It's human beings that make it complicated. Ali, thank you once again for your time. It's been a real pleasure to chat things through with you.
Thank you, Rob.
Cheerio. Take care. Bye.